Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire, and tonight we are going to go through the best decks in Star Wars Unlimited Jump to Lightspeed version. The Jump to Lightspeed meta is here. We are ready. We didn't do one of these in Set 3 because really the Set 3 meta was so crazy, I didn't know what would be good. Set 4, though, I have a pretty dang good idea. A lot of that has to do with the banned and restricted announcement last week. And not only that, I'm not going to give you 3 best decks. I'm going to give you 4 best decks. Actually, I'm going to give you 5 decks today, including lists, all for free. Check it out.
Luke, we're gonna have company!
Couple giant pieces of news before we get to the best decks. Number one, last week, FFG did a meta stream. They said no changes to the suspended list. Boba's not coming off and nothing's going on. I was shocked by this. To start, I don't care what happens. I don't have a dog in the fight. Like, deck identity isn't a thing to me. If they want to ban something, great. I just like knowing so we can, plan for the meta at hand, figure out what's good, tech against it, play it, whatever it is. I really thought that they should have done something about DJ and Han. That interaction, it's not worded right on Han. He shouldn't be able to destroy the resource. It makes barrier for entry on deck efficacy really, really high. If you can't deal with tech DJ, you got to be faster than it, be able to flip your leader faster than you can get DJ'd, or be able to deal with it. Something like a shielded unit can attack into it with Anakin and maybe kill the tech before you can flip DJ. Whatever it is. A lot of decks can't do that. And a lot of players who are not highly competitive or they aren't thinking about that at all times might show up to an event and get absolutely punished because of it. I think for those reasons alone, they could have shaken up the meta a bit. They didn't think the meta needed to be shaken up, which I completely disagree with. I thought Han was all over the place last season. And the crazy thing is even though a lot of people have been telling them that this should not be in the Premier format, they looked at tournament data and they didn't think that Han had enough wins to do anything about it. I'll leave you at that. They have a whole team of playtesters. They pay playtesters. They have been working on this set for years. I don't know what to tell you. We know what's available in the format. We are about to know what the best decks are. Let's move forward. There's no more double draws. Intentional draws are here. What does that mean for you? One, if you start 5-0 in a tournament, in a 7-round event, if you go undefeated up until 2 more rounds, you can always intentionally draw the last 2, and you will always make the top 8. The key here is that draws are better than losses. So now you're not going to make the top 8 with a 4-2 record or 5-2 record. Only X1, and better are going to make top cuts. So you only have 1 loss to give for the entire tournament. If you want to make a top 8, you can no longer lose 2 games and get it on breakers. A lot of people aren't happy about this. I personally feel a lot better about it. If you've been following some of the scoop discussion around judging, all that goes away, right? If I get paired against a teammate, I don't want to play them later in a tournament, we can intentionally draw, go to the next round. Perfect. No more chatter. So that's what I'm looking at. I think it's better for the competitive game. I do think players are going to be fighting to win that second game to try and get a draw. I mean, that's just part of competition. You got to figure out any way you can win. Players were winning crazy games in top cut tiebreakers this set. So whatever the rules are, we play by them, right? We don't care. We're just going to play by the rules we can. All right, let's check out those best decks of the Jump to Lightspeed meta. All right, I'm doing it a little different this time. I'm giving you the best ramp deck, the best aggro deck, the best mid-range deck, and the best control deck. The best ramp deck in the Jump to Lightspeed meta is Admiral Piett, new leader from Jump to Lightspeed. This guy is crazy. No longer do you need to draw into your ramp. He will provide it for you. However, if you do hit your ramp, resupplies, super laser techs, you're going to be very happy. It's going to let you play resupply carrier even earlier, and before you know it, that Piett is going to be flipped, and you'll be dropping Devastators on 4-drop units. It's that good, and it's not difficult at all to play. Have you struggled to find a deck that you could take to a competitive tournament and beat good players? Well, this is the deck for you. What did Admiral Piett get besides ramp on a stick? 4 new amazing capital ships, starting with the MC-30 Assault Frigate. I love this ship. I love it in as a turn 3 play, following ramp. It's a 5/5 that attacks for 6. It is overwhelm, and it's an amazing overwhelming barrage target. It also is a great TDR target if you wanted to take this in a different color. I personally think blue is the best version. But you can TDR, pay no extra resources. Always nice to have something that costs 5 or less off of a TDR. Resupply carrier. This thing, it comes out for 4 when Piett is flipped, or 5 if he's not, and allows you to take another resource. So you can resupply, throw this thing down, get your 6 resource. Avengers and Devastators to follow. I really love the CR90 Relief Runner. Heals a ton. Restore 2. Defeat when if they just kill it, it still heals. So I really love that. And the Fleet Interdictor, such a great ship. Sentinel, and it kills a 3 cost or less ship or unit. Yeah, space unit when it's defeated. Also, huge add-on for this deck is Turbo Laser Salvo. It's so hard to find AoE, area of effect. It means hitting a lot of things at once in this game. But Turbo Laser Salvo lets you do that. It lets you take any vehicle, so any friendly space unit dealing damage equal to its power to an enemy, each enemy unit in an arena. You choose, so you can shoot it down to Earth or the planet, or you can do it in space. But if your opponent is trying to like dodge your Devastator because that thing is just taking up all of space, so they play a bunch of guys to the ground, you can just kill them all with Turbo Laser Salvo. All right, and I promised you lists with this video. Here's a Piett blue list I've been working on. Full disclosure, I haven't tested this in about a week, so there might be some hotness that people are working on here, but I am not super into this deck. I think that this deck is going to be a very popular deck in the format, but it is not my style. I don't find that I can easily leverage player skill when I play this deck, so I'm looking for things that beat it, but tons of ramp. You can play removal, and then you can play just absolute bomb after bomb, and who doesn't love playing 3 Avenger, 3 Devastator? I also have 3 Aqueans Assault cruisers because I'm just trying to ambush whatever's in space. Maybe some of those should go on the sideboard. But this is just a starting off point. A card that I want to point out is Prepare for Takeoff. Great card. You know, you don't necessarily want to play a bunch of low-cost units. You don't want to draw them later in the game. Prepare for Takeoff is great. You can draw your resupply carrier and a Devastator and be set for the whole game. So it's a really cool card and a cool deck. I wonder what deck I'm going to talk about next. It's the best mid-range deck. You know, it's Jango Fett. Jango Fett got 3 amazing tools this set. IG 2000. If Jango's flipped, you get to deal 1 damage to up to 3 units, exhausting each of those units. This has Overwhelm, so if you're playing a pilot deck, maybe you're trying Dengar, maybe you're trying Boba Fett, maybe you're trying Vader, this thing can hit other ships and power right through them. This thing is great. This deck was missing a 4-drop for a long time. It does what On the Doorstep did in a lot of ways, only it does it all in one action from space. The next card is truly an insane card. I don't know what FFG was thinking printing this card. None of this makes sense. Ready? It's a 3/7 6-cost vehicle. It means you can TDR or sneak attack it very early, like before Jango flips. Or after. I mean, this guy definitely is better after Jango flips because he deals 1 damage to each of any unit in space, on the ground, leaders, whatever, itself. It hits everything. How does a tank shoot to space? I don't know. No one questioned it when they fired a super laser cannon from Ilum and destroyed the New Republic, right? So this thing gets +1 for +1/+1 for each damage unit, so it can make itself a 4/6 when it comes into play. And again, when Jango's flipped, it just taps your whole board. You can't play unit-based decks anymore. If you can't kill Jango, if your deck isn't built to kill Jango, all Jango has to do is claim, throw it on a War Juggernaut, ideally with a sneak attack or a TDR, and just tap your whole board. You're not doing any damage that turn, and Jango's doing all the damage they can. Not only that, but we got Devastator. This thing is crazy. At least it's appropriately costed. It's expensive, but this thing assigns its indirect damage, so it can tap down 4 things. It can go 4 to base. It can kill something, tap 2 things, go 1 to base, split it up any way you want. But when you play it with TDR, sneak attack, it comes in ready. It can do 13 damage to the face. That's more than half of the 25-point base decks. So you don't even have to do that much work in the early game. You just need to get to these late game bombs. Biggest problem for Jango that I see is fitting all this stuff into a deck. This is one version of a deck I've been testing. This still has some ISB agents, It obviously has the very robust late game, 2 Fetch Fire Spray, 3 Raider, 2 Devastator, 3 War Juggernaut. It's really hard to fit all that stuff, and I think a lot of people are going to struggle with the best way to build the deck, and maybe some people think that they know the best way. That's great. Good for them. I think we need to do a little more playtesting to figure it out. I'm using Bib Fortuna right now. I think he's pretty good at getting the aggressive sneak attack and triple dark raids. Lets me hit my Devastator a turn early, my Juggernaut, my Ruthless Raider a little bit early. Lets me get really aggressive with the TDR so that I can sneak attack that ship again. So that's what I'm looking to do in Django. This is the best mid-range deck. It's going to be everywhere. It was already a great deck, and it got so much better with those 3 cards I just mentioned. We've got our second jump to Lightspeed leader on the list, Kaz. He is the best aggro deck in the format right now. Look at what he gained. Well, actually, it's not even about what he gained. It's about what he does. A friendly unit loses all abilities for this round. Take an extra action after this one. That's crazy. The way lose all abilities is worded in the rules is that that unit can no longer gain abilities, which makes Heroic Sacrifice and Trench Run absolutely cracked. That means I can Trench Run with impunity. No one can hurt my ship. I just get +4/+0 and an attack action for 1 resource. Not only that, but that take an extra action after this one. Action cheating is the thing that really, really got people off of Destiny. The thing people loved about Destiny, like they love in Star Wars Unlimited, is it's back and forth. You go, I go, you go, I go. Action cheating, it broke all of that open. Now with Kaz, all we have to do is have a ship on table or vehicle or just, a fighter unit, ideally for Trench Run, right? If we open the turn with a fighter, we can make it lose all abilities for the turn. We can hit it with the +4/+0. We're sending like a stolen AT hauler in for 8. And then if our opponents decide to kill it later, they don't get to play it from our resource, our discard pile. Heroic Sacrifice, much in the same way. It's a +2 attack for 1. It lets us draw a card, but it doesn't make our unit defeat. Kaz also got the Fireball and another unit that's like a 3-cost 4/4 ambusher for the ground. They have like the Fireball will damage itself once per turn. The other ambusher I just mentioned, he gets defeated at the end of the round, but because Kaz makes things lose all abilities, that goes away. And that means you can play these ships that have tremendous downside and be protected with Kaz. So this is a crazy fast aggro deck. I still think Sabine is one of the most premier aggro decks in that it really plays more mid-range because it can play the longer game with things like Poe and Wrecker. It's got the best endgame. This is more of a glass cannon deck, but man, is it fast. It can kill you so quickly with that 4-cost +3/+3 attack on Kaz's flip side when he plays as a pilot. Shout out to my teammate Chrono, who's been working on this list, the Aggro Master. This is his list. I haven't tested too much Kaz. I've mainly been just working with whatever he cooks up. He's been working on Kaz in every single color, so if you're in the KTOD Discord, make sure that you're signed up for all the deck threads, all the Kaz deck threads. Chrono's lists are now available to Patreon subscribers, so you can check him out. I'm sure he's active in all those Kaz threads because he talks about Kaz all day. I love this list. It's just trying to stick an early spaceship, fire with those pumps, and because the pumps are so cheap and you get to do everything so fast, you get to build your board and oftentimes start with initiative the next turn to do things like drop Han Solo pilot to get a fast attack in. And it's just all sorts of pumps. It's even got Plo Koon for the late game to sort of like control the ground a little bit. And then the new card Jam Communications, clear the way, make sure the events aren't in there. All of this can be done following Kaz's ability. So you can always protect your guy and then do something else, either throw a pump or play another ship, or protect your hand with one of the cards. Are you ready for my spiciest take of the day? The best control deck in Star Wars Unlimited is Han Yellow. Bobby, that's not a control deck. I promise you it is. What did Han Yellow gain? Well, first of all, it didn't lose DJ, so that's a big win. And really, it didn't get anything new. It got a couple nice tricks, like the Mandalorian pilot could be really, really good here. But the thing that it got the most, which shores up its Django matchup as Django got so much stronger, is Commandeer. Take control of a unit that costs 6 or less without a pilot, ready it, start the next regroup phase, return that unit to its hand. So you get to steal their thing. Even if it comes into play tap, you get to attack with it, throw it back in their hand, set their board back. This thing's great. Let me talk about why Han is a control deck. Let me move myself down here. My vanity. The thing that I've always said about Han Yellow is that it punishes whatever strategy you want to take. You have a leader that deploys late. it's going to take your resources with DJ. You are a control deck that wants to play a really long game. You're going to do that with no cards. I'm going to play my Bodhi. I'm going to bounce it. I'm going to replay it. I'm going to strip your hand down so you run out of cards, and then I'm going to play tech. I'm never going to stop resourcing, and then my resource row is like a 20-card hand that you can't interact with. If you're playing a 25-point base, this thing's going to go aggro on you, which I know people think like, oh, that makes it mid-range, but it's not. It's like controlling your life total because it can, because it knows it can't stop you, because Han gets to play a 3-5 on turn 1 when everyone else is playing 2-3s and 3-3s. Like Han can always control your board first and then attack you later. It's like up to Han when he wants to flip that switch and go into the next game. But like if you tap out, he can kill your thing with Han Solo big unit. He can bounce it with Emphas Nest. He can play Kira a turn early to stop your hand. This thing can do whatever it wants to do. And now with the control cards like Commandeer, Bamboozle's in, Cunning is obviously a masterful card. It really does play like a control deck because it beats all the control decks, and normally mid-range decks don't. So that's what makes this the best control deck in this meta. And one of the reasons why I think people struggle to play it is because they don't actually like playing control decks. And this is a really difficult deck to play. You need to know how to control every board state. That's what control decks do. And that's what Han Yellow does. That's why it's my pick. I promised you 5 lists, and here's the best of the rest. Quinlan Tarkentown is an amazing deck, but it's not the best of any of those 4 categories. What it is the best at is possibly playing into each of those 4 decks. I think out of the 4, Kaz is its hardest matchup. I think Django is like 50-50 depending on how the draws go. Django obviously got a huge upgrade in 4 drops with Ahsoka Tano, being able to discard and possibly exhaust things, especially decks that want to keep a bunch of units. It still has Force Throw, it still has all the other discard, but that card was a huge addition. Quinlan has great game into Han, and because of the discard package into Piett. This is my list. I was going to shout out to Wu, who also is a active Quinlan player. He posted his version of the list on his Patreon, free version, if you want to check that out. I was going to use his list, but ended up going with mine for various reasons. But I really wanted to shout out Red Squadron Y-Wing. I've really loved that as an addition to my Quinlan deck. So many people like to pass turn 1, and I love slamming Red Squadron Y-Wing and leading with that as my open attack for the next turn. It either does 4, or my opponent takes some of the indirect damage, and I get to Tarkentown their first play anyway. So I really like that. And I'm also got some Commandeers in here because it helps against that 50-50 Django matchup. I really, really like Quinlan. If there was a tournament this weekend, I might even be playing Quinlan. All right, if you followed me this season, you know I like to do my power rankings 1 through 6. These are my top 6 leaders of the Jump to Lightspeed meta. Going into the meta, these are my predictions. This is what I like, what I think is good. I think Han Yellow is my top deck. Django Tarkentown right behind it. Quinlan Tarkentown right behind that. Piett, because it's so strong and it's hard to counter. It's really hard to get it up if it's game plan. It just slams big monster after a ridiculous monster. Kaz is my number 5 pick. Super, super fast aggro deck, and I think he's the better aggro in a mirror match because Sabine just can't keep up, but I still love Sabine as a mid-range deck. It has tons of game into Django, Quinlan, and Piett, so I still think it's a heavy player. These are my top 6 decks. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me what you think your top decks are, and yeah, I'll see you at the tables. Thanks for watching.